questions tonight surrounding a dramatic piece of video. This breaking news out of Buckeye, Arizona. Buckeye police do this to an autistic boy. They detain him, arrest him for being autistic. Take a look. Outrage and a whole lot of questions tonight surrounding a dramatic piece of video.
Those are the screams of a terrified 14-year-old boy with autism as a Buckeye police officer wrestles him to the ground. Police officials claim nothing about this is wrong, but the boy's family says watch the body cam video and you may feel differently.
Welcome, everyone. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations, and recording the police and our public officials in the course of their duty, showing transparency and holding them accountable shall keep us free. Tonight, ABC 15 investigator Dave Biskobing is the only Valley reporter with all of the evidence, and he's pressing Buckeye police for answers. And remember, when these come out, a fraction of the insane violations and criminality and torture of police actually makes the light of day. And this is from a number of years ago. This has been going back, I think, around 2017. It's coming out now because more than 5 years after police mistook an autistic teen for a drug user, a lawsuit has been filed. Let's continue.
All quiet neighborhood square, where you're now watching a Buckeye police officer roll up and jump out to confront a 14-year-old boy with autism.
What's going on?
This boy, Connor Liebel, and this is the officer, David Grossman. A lot is about to happen in the next 30 seconds, so watch first.
I don't know about you, but that cop looks kind of mighty strange. Looks like he came off a carnival, one of those really weird carnival sideshows. Doesn't look right in the head to me.
And we'll break it down after.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Good.
What are you doing?
I'm skimming.
What?
How you doing with this?
What is that? Stop walking away from me.
It's a stream.
Okay, so why are you bouncing around all over? You have any ID on you?
No.
Don't go anywhere. All right, just relax.
Are you okay?
That's the last thing you do with an autistic person is restrain them. Watch.
Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Stay down.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
During it all, the two fall into a tree. Connor is left like this, scrapes to his back, arms, and face. If you're wondering why Connor was alone, it's because his caregiver was walking his younger sister right across the street for piano lessons at this music shop.
And by the way, Connor did nothing wrong. He's not harming anybody. There is no victim. He's just doing his thing. To every cop, they are a hammer and they see a nail. They don't see a human being. They see a blob of flesh that they must get to comply or die.
Also wondering what Connor told the officer when he was approached, he said he was stimming. Stimming is a coping mechanism where he flicks a small string in front of his face. This video from his family shows him doing it out in his yard. It's the behavior that Officer Grossman claims made him think Connor was doing some sort of inhalant drug out in the middle of the day in the middle of this park. In a press conference, Buckeye police officials say they stand behind their officers' actions.
Of course they do. They always stand behind the criminals, the sadists, the torturers. Because they get to investigate themselves, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to stop that as part of our police reform. And you know what? Even if someone was doing drugs, it's just the thing. The war on drugs is not a war on drugs, it's a war on people, as Brian from Here's the Deal channel on YouTube says. I don't agree with someone doing drugs, but we need to help people who do drugs, not treat them as criminals, not make it a moral problem, but something we have to have great compassion for. And we got to get the cops out of the drug business. I mean, this is just absolutely heinous behavior.
There was an internal investigation in this.
Oh, there was an internal investigation, and we found ourselves not guilty.
Internal investigation decided that there was no type of use of force made within this incident.
Officer Grossman is a top DUI.
That there was no type of use of force? Do you have freaking eyes, lady? The internal investigation people, you and I do, we could see there was absolute use of force and torture of this seeming like a very beautiful, gentle young man. But of course, they investigate themselves. They will always find themselves not guilty. As I've said in other videos, imagine when we were in school, if the teacher every single quiz and test, including finals, said, hey, guess what? You get to grade your own tests, and whatever grade you say you have, even if you have A pluses every single time, from kindergarten to high school to college, I will believe you and accept it as your grade. That's what the freaking fucking mother pieces of crap cops get to do, because we let them. We need to demand from our politicians that ends. Internal investigations have got to end now.
A cop and certified drug recognition expert. Police say since he found Connor's actions suspicious, that allowed him to detain Connor.
He's a drug expert. Obviously, he doesn't know shit. Every single one of his drug and DUI, DWI stops and arrests and convictions has got to be questioned now and looked at, and most likely many of them can be overturned.
Also say Grossman couldn't immediately tell Connor was a juvenile.
I don't know if there's anybody that would ever look at this boy and think that he's not 14 years old, or that he's even close to being a man.
Right.
Do you think maybe it could have been handled better? Is there any sort of acknowledgement that way?
You know, I don't know if better would have been the term to use again, because I'd be getting in the officer's head about what was going on on that time and what he thought was what he was dealing with. But we are going to learn from this and hopefully deal with these situations differently.
Better isn't a word she wouldn't use, because she has no soul. They train the humanity out of cops when they become cops, because they don't look at people, as I said earlier, as human beings. They look at them as blobs of flesh, pieces of meat that they must get to comply and bend to their will, whether they are right or wrong, whether the person breaks the law or not. What reason did that piece of crap cop have to do anything physical with that young boy? Could have asked him some questions, perhaps. But even that, what's so wrong? I mean, I've seen autistic people. I've known them to do stimming, where they hold a piece of string in front of their eyes, and it helps them to relax and de-stress and reduces anxiety. There's no reason for that cop actually to even interact with that boy. Continuing.
Differently.
Now, in response to Buckeye PD, Connor's family was not available for an interview tonight, but in a statement, they told me they are anguished over what happened, and they're making 3 different demands. I'm going to read them for you. 1, a face-to-face apology from the officer to their son. 2, for the officer to do community service in the autism community. And 3, training for every officer in Buckeye PD so that this doesn't happen again. Now, the city says they just received those demands, and they're evaluating them. As for us, we're still digging into this incident. And tomorrow we're going to sort out a lot more of this evidence and reveal a lot more about what happened.
And that is the video there. And I'm going to read you now from the lawsuit. And this comes out from February 17, 2023. And ladies and gentlemen, don't call the police for people who have autism or mental illness or people in mental health crisis. Don't do that. You see, we have an emergency in our country. We have our government that does everything outside of our country, but nothing to help the people in our country. And we absolutely have a police state emergency. The videos that I show and the other commenters that you watch, we are showing a fraction of what's available. And remember, what is actually captured on video is a tiny fraction of what actually happens. And I could be doing this, and the other commenters can be doing this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's so much content just that's available. We want to change this. And we have people like Biden, they go to Ukraine, but they don't have time to actually help the people in East Palestine, Ohio, who have a critical environmental crisis on their hands. They've been poisoned. No time for them. We have a police state emergency. Politicians will create laws to rename buildings after themselves and so forth, but they don't have time to address this. This happens every day. people who have autism, people who have mental health crisis, people who are schizophrenic, people who just want to be left the fuck alone in a park. And they're harassed, assaulted, and many times murdered by the police. Continuing. More than 5 years after a police officer mistook an autistic teen for a drug user. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, he's an expert in this. A lawsuit filed against the city of Buckeye will finally head to trial. And by the way, those things that they said before about want them to do community service in the autistic community, want all of the officers to get training, and they should get training on how to deal with mentally challenged people, autistic people, people in mental health crisis. But it's like training a rattlesnake to not bite you anymore when you put the rattlesnake in your pocket. Rattlesnake, you've had training. I don't want you to bite me, but I'm going to put you in my pocket. Ow, why'd you bite me? Because I'm a rattlesnake. It's my nature. It's the nature of police in our country. Continuing. Leibel was 14 years old at the time of the incident. And he was Connor Leibel sued the city after former officer David Grossman tackled and detained him. But there was no excessive force, the other officer said. Tackled and detained him. Detained is called an arrest, by the way. When you handcuff someone, it sounds like we're just, hey, just stay there. No, I'm going to talk with you. It is an arrest where they put the person in torture cuffs. And I've been arrested 3 times. I have stood up for my rights, and as many of you know, I had a gun put to my head because I wouldn't give a cop my ID because I didn't commit a crime. And he had his finger on the trigger as he held that gun to my temple. He was demanding my ID. I wouldn't give it to him, and he wanted to get it, comply or die. That's their mantra. I was 1/8 inch of a trigger pull away from being murdered by a cop for standing up for my rights. I know what it's like. Cops don't like that. Continuing. The trial will begin on February 21st and will last about a week. I'll keep you up to date on this, ladies and gentlemen. The case largely focuses on 2 claims. Did Grossman use excessive force during the arrest? Let's see. We saw it. Yes. Were Leibel's rights violated under the Americans with Disabilities Act? Most likely. Grossman, who was a drug recognition expert, in major air quotes, stopped Leibel in the park because he suspected he was inhaling something, according to body camera footage. And you know what he was inhaling? Oxygen. Air. Is that a crime now, you pieces of shit scum-sucking pigs? However, Leibel was stimming with a small piece of string. Again, it calms people with autism. It's a self-calming mechanism they use. Stims are typically repetitive movements or behaviors that act as self-soothing or calming mechanisms for people with autism. In defense of Grossman's actions, Buckeye's attorneys will argue that the officer had reasonable suspicion to stop and detain Leibel. And even if he was inhaling something, why? Please get involved. No victim, no crime. However, he wasn't. He was breathing oxygen. He was just a young boy. And anyone with freaking eyes can see this was an underage kid. There's not a grown-up here. A string did not cause reasonable suspicion to go away because Officer Grossman knew that such items as strings can be dipped into inhalants, hand sanitizers, or rubbing alcohol and used as part of the process of using illegal inhalants. The state's got to be involved in anything like that, of course, according to pretrial documents filed by Buckeye's attorneys. They suck. The attorneys suck. The police chief, the lieutenants, the captains, sergeants, they all suck. That may be on my latest t-shirts. Police, they all suck. They were Truth Investigations. Stay tuned for my merch I'll be offering shortly. Continuing. After the incident, ABC discovered Grossman had a checkered history that was detailed in years of performance reviews and those internal investigation probes. He didn't need an internal probe. He needed a proctology probe. Maybe that would have set him straight. In his annual reviews, supervisors documented a pattern of past issues with Grossman's performance, including being too headstrong, talking down to citizens, and getting too far ahead of himself so that he makes a wrong statement or decision in the process. You think maybe if they really did real investigations, since, of course, police are in the business of doing professional investigations, that it would have said, you know what? Maybe after one incident even, or two or three, or however many there were, this piece of scum-sucking smegma is not worthy and capable of being a police officer. But no, they investigate themselves. They put at least some of the things in the file. I wonder what's not in the file, by the way. But at least some of the things in the file, and they say, yeah, he's a piece of shit, but hey, we all are, so keep going. Keep doing your thing. In 2011, Grossman was also put under an extensive performance improvement plan. The plan sought to correct several instances of unconstitutional actions, poor report writing, and issues with his vehicle operation. Oh, what does that mean? Maybe he drove like 90 miles an hour with no lights through school zones? But most concerning, the plan addressed multiple police calls in which supervisors felt Grossman failed to act in critical situations which violated department policies that cover cowardice. For the cops to call one of their own a coward, since most of them are cowards because they're always fearing for their safety, this must be extreme cowardice here, but he's still on the force. And you know what? This brave coward, he then accosts and assaults and tortures children. So that's what he does. He's still doing it. Years later, seems like he's still a police officer. This was from 2017 when this happened. Continuing. The incident between Leibel and Grossman grabbed national headlines and later morphed into a growing embarrassment for the Buckeye Police Department. In the wake of the publicity, whistleblowers anonymously sent a letter to the city manager's office accusing the department and Chief Larry Hall. Of course, it always comes from the chief, people. They have to be held responsible as everyone under them. They train them. They supervise them. They manage them. They're supposed to hold them accountable. But after all these reports, this guy seems like he's still a cop. And messing with children, torturing children now. Oh, here we go. Grossman eventually retired under a disability claim. So guess what? He gets to get his full pension. People's like, wow, you're a retired officer. I'm impressed. Probably gets extra heaping amounts of salad at Pizza Hut because of his ex-cop status. Again, egregious, torturous, sadistic behavior that is tolerated by the police culture. We got to end it. My 6 demands for police reform are next. End qualified immunity right now. End internal investigations right now. Felony to mute or edit or delete or mess with body cam footage in any way. 24-hour release of body cam footage. All chiefs and supervisors held responsible for crimes of all police officers in their department. And number 6, end police unions right now. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your support. Please donate to the cause. I have the description for my PayPal and my Cash App account in the description.